Hello, everyone. On today's podcast episode, I'm going to talk about the phenomenon that I've noticed as someone who loves traveling. As someone who's been traveling, by traveling, I don't mean like traveling to like different countries. I mean like traveling within the United States as a whole. As someone who travels within the United States, I've noticed a phenomenon where if you go from city to city, right? If you go from city to city, if you go to like the major No, just going from city to city itself, you notice that almost every part of the United States look alike. You know, before when I used to travel with my parents, to different states, you know, I never really paid attention to the surroundings because I was younger at that time, so I never really paid that much attention to surroundings as a whole. But when as I grew older, I started traveling by myself. I prefer traveling by myself. I prefer driving over flying because I've always had the mindset that why put my life in the hands of someone else when I can control it myself. Why take a plane, right, and put my life in the hands of the what do you call a plane, a plane driver. I'm drawing a blank. I think it's a pilot. It's it's getting dark, so I'm almost sleeping. So a plane pilot. Why put my life in the hands of a plane pilot when you know I can just drive myself? And I started traveling. It's called. I prefer to call it mini traveling. I didn't really go that far. I just went from city to city. I just went around. The city that I'm in. And the outskirts of those cities of that city, and then the cities around it. And as I traveled, I started to notice, when you travel by yourself, you can take your time to see things. When you're driving when you're driving by yourself, it's easier to notice things more than when you're taking a plane. When you're taking a plane, all you see is you drive to the airport, right? You enter the plane. By the time you touch down, you don't really see much, while inside the plane. But when you're driving by yourself, you start to see things. You see a lot more things when you're driving by yourself. So the phenomenon is that when you're driving to city, you start to notice that the whole country just looks, it just looks like copies, and it's like the world, people just copy and pasted the same city all over the country. You go from Lansing to Detroit, and you see the same Starbucks, you see the same McDonald's. The streets look the same. They even have the same names. There's an MLK Street on every city. It's like almost every city you have MLK. There's an MLK Street there. There's a Waverly. There's a you know there's so many different streets, with names like Jefferson and X and Y, Malcolm X Street, these streets are so, almost every city has them. And sometimes you just get bored, when you go from city to city, expecting to explore the country, and then when you get there, you realize it's just like your city. Not much is different. You just went from city to city, but yeah, it feels like you just went from one part of your town, to another, one part of your city to another. Not much is different when it comes to views, but it also changes. The truth is, you know, although most cities look the same, that to the point where if you're on a highway, sometimes you can get lost very easily when as you're driving on the highway, you see a sign that says MLK Street, right? And when you see a sign that says MLK Street, you think it's the MLK Street on, for your city. If you're not really good at driving highways, you have to be careful. Just because the sign says the name of your city, of a road on your city, or the sign says a street name of your city, does not mean that street name goes to your, is the one from your city. If you take that sign, if you take the stop for that sign, you may end up in a whole different city. It happens a lot, when you're driving around, Lansing, or when you're driving around Michigan. I've noticed that when, you take the highway, at some point in time you start seeing signs. When you get closer to like the major city, you start seeing signs of streets that that are related to your own, that are exact replicas of the streets in Lansing, and this is a whole different city, but it has the exact same name, the exact same street name of a street in Lansing, and that just blows my mother away. When every time I have to take my mother somewhere, she's always confused why there's a city. Why is there MLK here when MLK should, isn't there just one MLK? You know, Sometimes when I'm filling out a form, right, and they tell me to put my address in. Every time I put my address in, there's always another address somewhere else that's the exact replica of mine, but it's in a different state, you know, and that always blows me away. How how every city that has a replica somewhere else. Every street name is used elsewhere, to the point where if you're driving a highway and you see your street name, you may think it leads straight to your, the stop leads straight to your city's, to the street in your city. But nope, this street name goes to a different street in a whole different location. So if you take that street, you may end up in a whole different location, and you get yourself lost. So always follow your GPS if you have it. If you don't have it, you have to be careful. If you're nowhere near your city, if you're nowhere near your home or your destination, do not take random exits that have your city name on it. Do not take any random exits that have your city name on it. Follow the exit written on your map. Written on your destination map, or your whatever you're using to find your way home. Only follow those exits. If you see any name that sounds familiar, ignore it. But other than that, if you actually want to enjoy, traveling, what I found out is, do not go to a different city expecting, to experience something else. When it comes to the buildings, although there are what do you call them, exceptions to the rules. Some countrysides have extremely unique buildings. Some countrysides do not have. Some places do not have McDonald's at all. But sometimes those are few and far between. But the majority of places, you find one. You may not find McDonald's, but you may find Burger King. You may not find Burger King, you may find McDonald's, or you may find Starbucks, or you may find what do you call it, Subway. It's always one or two of those, hidden in those cities, that it almost becomes like, almost feels like deja vu. It's like, I just came from this city, now I'm going back to the city. But if you're someone who likes to travel a lot, the best thing is to find like the tourist locations, and the parks. Some of the most beautiful places are parks, man. Every city has their own unique set of parks, man. And each park is so unique and beautiful. There's so many interesting places to actually see, just around Lansing alone, just in Michigan alone. There's so many interesting places to see. If you ignore the fact that, the homes are all, identical, the way the buildings are identical. Even the city layout is kind of identical. There's a downtown area, and then there's the outskirts. If you ignore that part and actually take your time to actually research the city, you'll find so many beautiful places hidden within them, man. And that's one of the reasons, when I first started traveling, I almost gave up traveling to different cities simply because of that fact alone, that they almost look identical. But when I continued traveling, that's when I realized that although the cities themselves, may look identical, each city is actually pretty unique. There's actually a lot of beautiful places you won't find in your own city. There's some unique, museums, unique stores. Some stores can only be found in one city. And they're so unique, you'd actually be surprised. You'd actually be baffled they have such a cool place hidden inside this, little city that you just came to, that nobody else knows but but the people, within that city. So, if you really want, if you're someone who likes traveling, do not let the fact that, almost all the cities look alike fool you. There's actually a lot of beautiful places to see, in the United States. There's so even driving the United States, the highways, there's so many beautiful views. Some places are so baffling to look at, man. Some places are, just will blow you away and how beautiful it is. My mother, who's not someone who really cares about nature, just driving the highway, some of the things she sees, man, some of the things she saw. I once went from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. I once went from Lansing to Atlanta, Georgia. I drove from Lansing to Atlanta, Georgia, and I have to tell you that, man, the views, the views from there to here, there's so many unique views you can find, man. This place, the United States is a truly beautiful place. If you ignore the fact that many streets look alike, many places look alike, the places that don't look alike are actually very beautiful. And there's so many. Each city has its own unique, drawing point, has its own unique, beauty to it. So if you're someone who likes to travel, I truly recommend you traveling, but you just have to know that if you go to the normal places, if you just expect to just go to the mall, these are the places you go to, the mall, the club. Just know you're going to exactly the same place you went to here in Lansing. You must go to places that, you've never gone to before. Places like, what do you call it, museums. Each place has its own unique set of museums. Each place that has their own, drawing points. Some places have great parks. Some places the whole place is covered in nature. Some of these places, almost every building is covered in, and then some places it's the opposite. It's more, there's like Chicago. I've been to Chicago before, man. Those places, man, it's filled with so many buildings. You can just say it's more, it's more modernized than some places. So if you're someone who likes to travel, I recommend traveling, in the United States, man. You'll find so many, beautiful places to see. There's so many wonderful people out there. And life in general is actually pretty great as a traveler. As long as you're not a bad traveler, you don't drink and drive, most people, you won't find trouble on the road, because I've been traveling for a long time and I've rarely ever had issues driving the road. So it's not as dangerous as you think it is. As long as you're not a careless driver, you can get to most places without much of a hassle. So if you're someone who loves traveling, I truly recommend, just taking your car and going to like a different city, and then exploring the parks, exploring the museums, exploring the unique buildings out there. There's not only museums out there. There's so many unique places you can find, and each city has its own drawing point. So, but that's it for this podcast. I'll talk to you guys later.